Hello and welcome to our second episode of Docker series on our channel Cloud Sewa. So in this episode we're going to learn about the Docker installation process and the Docker Hub registration process. So what we need to do to install a Docker and what you need to do to create a Docker Hub account. So we'll also talk about a simple lab where we pull an image from the Docker Hub, we run the image in a desired container with a specified port number and see its output in our web browser. So now let's break the ice and take a step forward to install the Docker in our infrastructure. So for this today's session, I'll be using Ubuntu as my Linux machine. So let's get on with the installation of Docker. So at first, I'll be updating and upgrading my Ubuntu. So for that, I'll be using the command line sudo apt-get update and upgrade -y. It provides you the privilege to continue execution of the code without the obstruction to choose whether you want to continue or not. So then for the installation of Docker, I'll be choosing the easiest method. So it's going to be sudo apt-get install docker.io, and we'll be providing the privileges and permissions for the non-privileged user to use the Docker. And for that, you have the command user mode AC Docker for that user. And to start the Docker service, we can use the systemctl start Docker. So now we pull, after starting the Docker engine, we then pull the image from the Docker Hub. So in order to do that, we have that command sudo docker pull image and the name of the image followed by a tag which specifies a version of that image. So then we can also view the pulled image by typing the command docker images that lists out all the images that's stored in your local machine. And you can also view the status of the active containers, the process status of the active containers by the use of command docker ps. So we can also view the process status of active or passive containers. That's going to be the collection of all the containers by using the command docker ps-a. And we can also run the image in detached mode. So what exactly is the difference between a normal mode and a detached mode? It's like you have the terminal and you run a container of an image not in detached mode, then the CLI it's reserved for the running of Docker container. You cannot further than do anything except then to let the container run in that CLI. So if you run it in detached mode, you can use that CLI window for further operations. So in order to run the image in detached mode, we can use the command docker run -d image name. So I can give it like nginx. Okay, so you have the example also docker run d that signifies the detached mode -p, and that opens up the port to a desired port number. So that's going to be 8080 in that example. So by default, it's taking the 80 port, and you can use the image nginx followed by the tag latest or the version you want to run. After successfully pulling the images from the Docker Hub, we can also view the list of images that resides in our local machine by the use of the command docker images. And we can also view the process status of the active containers by the use of the command docker ps. But if you'd like to view the process status of all the containers, whether it's active or passive, you have the command line docker ps followed by a -a. And you can also run an image in detached mode. So if we don't run an image in detached mode, you're going to create a container, but the command, the CLI in which you're running code to run a container, it will be reserved for running the container itself. But if you use the detach mode for, let's say, we have a image and we run it in detach mode, it's going to create you a container, but you can also use the command line for the further action. So in order to do so, we have the command line. It's docker run -d, which is the detach mode, and the name of the image followed by the tag. So here I'm going to show you an example of running an Nginx image, which I'm going to host in the port 8080 of my local server. So in order to do so, I will be using docker run in detach mode, that's -d. We will be opening the port and mapping it to 8080. So -b and 8080 is to 80 by default. Nginx will be publishing the port to 80. So now we'll be having the dedicated port of 8080. And we give the image name Nginx followed by a tag which might be latest. And if you don't give any tag, it will by default take the tag latest. So what we did here is we run the Nginx emails in detached mode, which we open it in the port 8080. So now let me guide you to the steps of how to install Docker in your Linux machine by using Linux CLI in Ubuntu. So right now I'll be popping up with a terminal here. And okay, let's maximize it. And then we will be entering in the root mode. Let's change the directory. And the first step to begin with will be updating and upgrading our Ubuntu. So for that, apt get update and apt get upgrade followed by a -y. So here we can have the updates and the upgrade. So I've just recently done the update and the upgrade, so it doesn't take so much time. If you haven't done it, it will take some time. So now we move on to installing the Docker. So for that, I'll be using apt get install docker.io. So it asks me whether I want to continue for the additional disk space. So yes, I'll be continuing over. So the Docker is currently being downloaded, and so it will take some time. The package is going to be downloaded soon. Now, within a minute or so, we'll be having it. And this step is, I've already told you that one of the easiest steps you'll be ever going through. But if you're looking to use various package installers or other repositories than this, you can go ahead and like check that out too. So it's taking time. So the downloading has completed, and now it is just unpacking and installing the package. So we'll get there in no time. There we have it, the Docker installed in our system. So let's check the status of our system, our Docker system. So we do it with systemctl status Docker. We have the Docker, but it's currently inactive. So we'll be running the Docker. So to do so, systemctl start Docker, and it has started. And you can also check it again by using the same command in the green colored line. You can see active and running now. So now we'll be pulling the image from the Docker Hub, or we'll be pulling an Nginx image. For that Docker pull Nginx, I'll be using the tag latest. So the pulling process has been started, and the this, as you can see, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different layers of parallel downloading. And in the Docker, they have introduced this concept in which scenarios you can say, like, if you have an older version, you don't need to re-download the things that is being used of the older version in your updated version. So that means if you are downloading an updated version of Nginx and you have an older version of Nginx, and the updated version of Nginx contains some portion of the older version of Nginx. So while pulling the updated version of Nginx image, you don't have to re-download the old Nginx while downloading the new Nginx. So am I making sense? I think you can get through that. So now the pool has been completed, and you can see the list of the images by using Docker images. So it shows you that you have Nginx latest. So now let me run this image in a detached mode and show you the output. So I'll be doing Docker run. I'll be running in detached mode. I'll be opening up the port in 8080 and mapping it to the default 80 port, and I'll be using the image and Nginx. So basically I'll just be doing this. So here you have we have the container created, and here this is the container ID. So you can also see the activity of the container by using the command docker ps. It gives you the active containers, and docker psa, it gives you all the active and the passive containers. So here you have it. Port 8080 is listening via port 80 TCP. So let me get you through that. Let's open up in our Firefox. So yes, you can see that we have successfully created the Nginx container and hosted the container in the listening port of 8080. So as you can see, you have the default Nginx page right here. As we have already heard about Docker Hub, it's a open source platform and a library, to be precise. It's a collection of Docker images, and once you create an account in Docker Hub, you will be able to push your own customized images or your freshly created images. And once you've created an account in Docker Hub, you will also be able to propose the changes for the official Docker images. So now let's move on with the Docker Hub registration process. I'll be giving you a quick walkthrough about that. So you need to have your own user credentials for that. So the initial step is to go to the Docker Hub, which looks kind of similar as you can see on the screen. And after getting through that, you will be taken to a registration form where you will fill up the form. And the sample form you can see on the screen. You need to have your Docker Hub ID, your email address, and your password. So after you go through that, you need to verify your email, which is sent by Docker Hub to your inbox. After you verify your email, you will be linked up with the Docker Hub. And finishing with that, once you have your Docker Hub opened, you can have the unlimited possibilities to explore the Docker images from the Docker Hub. So you can have your front end web servers, you can have your back end database server, you can have MongoDB, you can have Nginx, you can have Alpine, you can have phpMyAdmin. You have the multiple possibilities to that. Thank you for watching episode 2 of Docker, and stay tuned for the episode 3 of Docker, where we'll be discussing about a lab scenario where we will enter into the bash location of the container and edit it contained, and we see that output in our web browser. We then create and customize image from the customized container and then push it to our repository in Docker Hub, and then we also then pull that customized image from our repository and then check its output. Thank you. So let's move on to a basic scenario where you'll be having a primitive laboratory. So where you will be pulling an image from Docker Hub. So in this case, we'll be doing with Nginx, and we'll be running that image to a container at a desired port location. So for that, you have a flow diagram. I'm going to explain you with that. So at first, you have the Docker Hub, the collection of images, and you pull it in your Linux machine. After you pull that image, it will be stored in your local directory, and then when you run it at the port 6060 or 8080, whatever you want, you have the container running. And once you have the container up and running, and in your Linux machine's browser, you put on that URL in your browser with localhost with the port number specified for the hosting of that Nginx image. You have the default Nginx index or HTML displayed in your Linux machine.